men are the work of our Maker's hands, from the lowest slave to the highest king.
Blessed are the peacekeepers, champions of the just. The deep dark before dawn's first light seems eternal.
In the name of Andraste, bride of the Maker, be welcome in this house. While the cathedral is closed, if you need to make wedding or funeral arrangements, you'll have to talk to Sister Olma.
Did someone die? I remember a funeral.
King Kalen died, remember? Along with most of the army at Ostagar? Maker guide them all.
Of those fallen in the Maker's service, let me sing, Lady of Sorrows. Carry their names to the ear of the Most High.
Of course we did. Are you kin of his? He fell in service to the Maker against Maleficarum. There was never a better soul. Perhaps I am not the best person to speak to. There are priests inside better qualified to counsel you about your loss.
Are they singing the chant now? It's a funeral, isn't it?
He should have retired to Valroyo years ago, but he wanted to stay and serve the remainder of his days in his homeland. It's the lyrium that does this. He wouldn't be a Templar anymore.
Blessed are they who stand before the corrupt and the wicked and do not falter.
He doesn't forget who he is, even if he can't remember anything else. May the light of the Maker guide your steps.
So much to do!
In the name of Andraste, bride of the Maker, be welcome in this house.
I've heard that somewhere before.
Did you need something else? May the light of the Maker guide your steps.
As there is but one world, one life, one destiny.
This is a nice estate, isn't it? What's on your mind? It is no trouble.
You know, I could get to like this. The last time I came to Denerim, I stayed at an inn so filthy the bedbugs had fleas. Your wish?
Maker's breath. It's good to see you in one piece, my friend.
Sir Catherine's death is a waste, truly. But I suppose it could not be helped. I was uncertain you would respond as you did, considering the consequences. I am glad you did. Thank you. Now, however, we must work together. And quickly. My father has gone mad. I didn't believe it at first, but he is gripped by a paranoia so severe it prevents him from seeing sense. He saw me as a threat, yet even now I'm certain he will be telling the nobles you are dangerous murderers that have kidnapped and mind-controlled me. He may even believe it. Perhaps. It will be more difficult for him, but if my father says the Grey Wardens are the enemy, many will believe it. He is a legend.
It's true. Our position in the Landsmeet is not strong, and this does little to help us.
At least that snake Howe is dead. That alone will not be enough, however. My father is committed to his path. You will need ammunition for the Landsmeet, and there I can help. You have only just arrived in the city, so perhaps you are unaware of some recent events. Denerim has been in turmoil since Ostagar. Many people here are angry or grieving. Strangely, the unrest is worst in the alienage. Few elves accompanied the army. They should have little reason to be upset, which means that Hal and my father must have given them reason. I don't know what is happening there, but I am certain my father has his hands in it.
A useful lead, Honora, but you could have sent this information with your maid.
That is true. I feared for my safety as Hal's prisoner. But to tell the truth, I sent Elena to you because I hoped we might join forces. You need that evidence for the Landsmeet. But you also need a stronger candidate for the throne. You need me. I have no doubt Alistair is biddable enough, and decent, but even with his blood, he is no king. You think only I can see it? Not only that, Alistair is a Grey Warden. It will look like you are trying to put a Grey Warden on the throne, despite your claims. I am a neutral party, and I am already queen.
Honora, you are indeed Kaelin's widow, but...
I am the daughter of Ferelden's greatest general. Who do you think truly ruled this nation for the last 5 years? Kaelin? I am what this country needs, not an untrained king who does not even want the throne. I can help you stop my father. Consider what I have said. For now, I think I will retire to my room. Warden, when you have a moment, I ask that you speak to me in private.
Well, she's quite spirited. I remember when Loghain first brought her to Denerim. Poor Kaelin was a good boy, but Honora was always 2 steps ahead. Had him jumping when she snapped since the first time she batted her eyelashes. I cannot help thinking she may be trouble, but we should keep her close, all the same. This is an alliance of convenience. For the moment, we are united against Loghain. Be careful how much trust you place in her. I do not for a moment think Honora means to give up her power easily. Still, I would rather have her where we can watch her than actively working for Loghain. Honora was a capable administrator for Kaelin's lands, but she has not a drop of royal blood. We did not fight the Orlesians all those years just to lose our royal line in a single generation. Not when there's a surviving son of the blood.
Are you serious? No, never mind. I don't even want to hear the rest of this. You two just keep talking about me. I'm going to stand over here with my fingers in my ears.
That would certainly solve a lot of problems, and put forth the strongest argument before the Landsmeet to remove Loghain from power. With Therin blood on the throne, and Honora's wisdom and popularity, Ferelden could present the most united front against the Blight. Unfortunately, the marriage would never happen, unless they both agreed to it. And I suspect that might take a lot of persuading to get past her pride and his humility.
No, I don't, which I've told both of you on many occasions. If Honora's turned against Loghain, I say let her keep the crown. It looks better on her anyway.
You're both wrong. With a few months of experience, Alistair will make a fine king. He knows how to lead troops to defend his land. He knows how to stand and fight for justice. He knows how to show compassion to those less fortunate, and how to trust to the Maker's guidance to know right from wrong. And he knows who to turn to for aid, should that training fail him. He will be fine. Ferelden was first united by Calenhad, the Silver Knight. For 400 years, his descendants have ruled Ferelden. That was the heritage we preserved from the Orlesians, and it is the heritage I will fight for as long as one of Calenhad's descendants still lives. Without that to unite us, we could scatter back to warring Terniers. We certainly have a great deal to plan. Maker knows what that man is capable of now. Of course, if I might make a suggestion, go speak with Honora. She will either be a powerful ally or a powerful enemy, and the sooner we know which she is, the better.
I'm glad you made it safely away. I hear Howe's death has already brought no small amount of cheer to the city. It's located just off the market district in the northern alley past the Old Noble Tavern. I'll sketch out the code which will let you pass the lock wheel. Inside you can take your pick of whatever equipment remains. It is the stockpile the Wardens have kept for centuries for the defense of Denerim. We went through our joining together, more years ago than I like to remember. He was exactly the same back then, tough as stone and just as grizzled. I think he understood sooner than the rest of us how ugly a choice it is to let the few be sacrificed to protect the many. Always left himself a soft spot for his recruits, though. Only way he ever let himself down. Well, I'd be happy to tell you what I know, but it seems to me that you've picked the important parts up yourself. Be firm in your beliefs, protect people from their own ignorance, and be as loyal as you can to your brothers, even knowing you'll share their deaths. It's tough to say. Only the fortress in Weishaupt has every record. But there are certainly a few dozen or hundreds in every nation in Thedas. The Anderfells are home to over 1,000. It's almost like the Archdemon chose Ferelden deliberately, knowing how unguarded it is. Once only, and I'd rather not go again. It's far, lad, and very foreign. The Wardens there, they fight Darkspawn like you and me, but they're shaped by the winters there and the forest. They're a cold group and don't care like they should about the rest of the world. Their king is weak, and many Anders look to the Wardens to rule. I hate to say this, but some of them seem to want it that way. It was near 1,200 years ago, and no one knows for sure, except that it began with a group of Ander soldiers. Apparently they defected from their king's army, vowing that fighting the Blight was more important, and traveled all the way to Tevinter themselves. They were the first ones to track down the Archdemon Dumat, and the ones to slay him, although none survived the battle. But they had picked up followers by then, and it was they who formally founded the Order, and were recognized by Thedas. Archdemons don't awaken on their own, you know. It takes the Darkspawn, tunneling and tunneling, searching for centuries to find one. And with no one to lead them, it must be sheer chance, or maybe instinct, which leads them. What's surprising isn't that it takes so long between blights. What's surprising is that they succeed at all. But I imagine the old gods call to them, and it's that voice in the darkness which drives them through so many generations. The important thing to remember is, none of that matters. When you're facing Darkspawn, all you need to know is to stop them at all costs.
Hello again, Warden. It is good that you came to speak with me. First, let me say that I knew your family. Eleanor, in particular, was dear to me, and what Howe did was unforgivable. How fitting he died at your hands. I will be blunt. I can see that your voice will be a strong one in days to come. It is to you that Eamon listens, and with good reason. My father must be stopped, but once that is done, Ferelden will need a ruler. I would welcome your support for my throne. That is exactly what I am proposing. When the time comes, you support my bid in the Landsmeet to remain on the throne. You will be seen as my father's enemy, yet you will be in support of his daughter. You will be seen as supporting the interests of Ferelden, as opposed to solely those of the Grey Wardens. In return, I add my voice to yours. Do you see? Together we can do what alone we cannot. Ignoring that the man looks so much like Cailan, my recently dead husband, if you'll recall, my main fear is that he might govern like Cailan as well. But it is true that Alistair has Therin blood. To some, this is more important even than practical considerations. A union might be considered a compromise, but is this something Alistair even desires? Consider it forgotten. Now, as for the alliance we were discussing. He is my father, as well as a great general, who has served his nation well until now. If there is a way for him to live, I would prefer it. I will always be my father's daughter, but even I know he must pay for his crimes. It will not make me glad, even so. Does that affect your decision? Can we yet come to an arrangement? For years, I have ruled this kingdom as Cailan's queen. As much as they loved Cailan, all of the Banon knew this to be so. Cailan was a good man, but what is needed now is not another good man, but a good ruler. I sent Alina here not solely because I thought I needed help, but because I saw an opportunity for us both. What say you then? Your support for mine in the Landsmeet? That is good to hear. So, we have a deal, Warden. I trust you'll keep your end of the bargain. Now, I suppose, comes the task of dealing with my father. That will be no small feat, of course, but I am certain you already know this. I imagine you have much to do. Is there anything else you needed from me? No. And while I know your concern is hardly disinterested, still, thank you. You return. Is there something you wish to discuss? Ask me whatever you like. Of course it does. Do you think me heartless? But how much worse would I be to calmly stay at the side of a man who murdered my husband? He was, and far happier in the field than in the throne room. He was reckless, impetuous, and charming. Had he not been king, he would have made a dashing rogue for a band of players. We were a good pairing. He would not have wanted the burden of ruling any more than I would have liked to remain the silent wife in my husband's shadow. Cailan was so idealistic. The world was his storybook, and he was the hero. My father is different. He's an idealist too, but he knows what idealism costs. They often clashed, but never seriously, never for long. Cailan would always come round to Father's way of thinking eventually. And then the Blight came. Cailan dreamed of uniting all the nations of Thedas against the Darkspawn. It was a dream. He wouldn't surrender. What my father saw, however, was the boy he had swaddled inviting Orlesian troops back into the land he had fought to free of them. And for once, my poor, foolish husband wouldn't back down. They would not believe it, most of them, even from my lips. Loghain is the hero they've looked up to their whole lives. Far easier to believe you or me a liar than him a murderer and tyrant. That's why it will be critical to find some way to discredit him before the Landsmeet. We must have proof of my father's crimes for the bands, or they will never believe us. It was more than just my own loss, but I thank you all the same. Ask me whatever you like. Do you want me to try my luck at fortune-telling? There was an old woman who read palms in the village of Gwarren when I was a child. She told me that I would have 10 children and be bald as a winter heath when I grew up. I can't say I put much faith in foretelling. What will happen depends much on you, Warden. But you certainly knew that already. Well, he was once a farmer when he was a boy, if you can believe it. I never could myself. He's useless with plants, for one thing. I remember my mother once asking his help with a sick rose vine. My mother oversaw the rose gardens personally. He touched it. No more than that. And it shed half its leaves like a dog with mange. She never asked for him to help with her roses again. He bought her another one, though. He carried it back from Denerim with the branches overflowing his saddlebag. Despite the thorns tearing him bloody, he wouldn't let anyone else take it. He wanted to be the one to present it to her. My father has his faults, Warden, but he is far from common. Because he believes he is right, Warden. He thinks he is the only one who can see Ferelden out of its current crisis, even if it is one he helped engineer. My father is capable of remarkable blindness, but it stems from his love of Ferelden. That is the saddest part of all, I think. I hope not, but I fear it is so, yes. Trust would perhaps be putting it too strongly. My father knew what Howe was, and while I despised the man, I knew that father relied on his political mind. I expect my father thought himself above being influenced by the snake. Truly, I wonder how many of these acts stemmed from Howe and not my father at all. We may never know. I am not sure. I had no inkling of my father's plans until Caleb was already dead. I would like to think that my father planned for the worst, but did not truly decide that Caleb was a lost cause until that moment in Ostagar. The alternative is difficult to imagine. Then I wish you luck, Warden.
Yes.
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 Dwarven crafts. Fine dwarven craft. Direct from Origin. Better.
This shield. It's Duncan's, isn't it? That's his crest. Thank you. Truly, I had no idea his shield wasn't with him. This is perfect. I don't know how else to express my gratitude. This means a great deal to me. I can't believe you remembered it at all. I'll treasure this. Thank you.